done a lap of the whole place, is pretty extraordinary. I'm on a couple of groups on Facebook as well, and I see the same questions come by every time. What's the travel distance, the travel time, what's the road conditions, how's the meat situation, how's the money situation, etc, etc. I thought, let me just start a discussion. Half of you will know this stuff, half of you will know this better than me, and the other half might learn something. So if you want to correct me, do so down below, but I think let's just start it. Got a couple of ideas here with my prop here. I'm loath to drink this. I've had this for about 2 months. It's a brilliant souvenir. Lovely place, Okavango Craft Breweries in Maun. If you get there, check them out. Try the beer, just mint. First of all, let's start with the money situation. And I hope you can hear me over the wind here. We're not in Botswana at the moment, and I'm not sitting in a Hilux, but we'll get to that later. When we were there in March 2024, the money exchange rate was about 15.5 to the euro. That means 15.5 Pula. This is much stronger than the rand to the euro. The rand to the euro was about 21 or 22. So you think you're already at a disadvantage, and yes you are. Botswana is not a cheap place to go to. It costs a bit of money. Everything costs about $100. Whatever you want to do as an excursion besides your destination. If you want to go on a Mokolodi, if you want to go on a cultural tour, if you want to do a helicopter flip, it costs a bit of money. But beyond that, your main expense will be diesel. And this is when you're doing self-drive, right? And the diesel price there was about 15 Pula. So it's basically half price of what we have here in France. So you're paying about €1.10 per litre of diesel, which is a good bargain in the end. The other question that comes up is, do I need cash? Can I use my credit card? Basically, you can use a credit card anywhere. The shops are similar to Europe, to South Africa. Basically, you can use your credit card like you can anywhere in Europe or in South Africa. The shops, all the supermarkets, the petrol filling stations especially, no problem at all. The problem you might have is when you get to the entrance gates of some of the national parks. And there sometimes their internet doesn't work, or they're pretty remote, a couple of them, where they don't have any connection at all, and you need to pay them in cash, your park fees, your vehicle fees, your conservation fees, if you haven't paid that already. The other side is, I would recommend, if you stay a week or 2 or 3, draw some money in local currency. Draw Pula. I would say 1,000 Pula would be okay. Go to a local ATM, easy enough. You can draw money there. Yes, you'll pay a bit of a fee, but the balance is negligible in my opinion. I think on 1,000 Pula was something like 40 or 50 Pula in exchange fees, maybe 70, but that's fine for my liking anyway. What you need with the cash is sometimes you pay park fees at the gate. You sometimes pay as a tip, because there's a big tipping culture in Botswana. They will fill up your car for you. You give them a couple of Pula for that. At the restaurants, a couple of Pula. At the bar, a little tip will go a long way, and that's in cash, in local currency. They will take rands as well, but they don't like coins. They won't take your 5 rand coin, which you normally tip at a petrol station in South Africa. They refuse that. They want paper money only. I think $1 will also be accepted, and we even paid for our Mokolodi in euros. So think about that. The other side for the little cash point thing when you're driving in South Africa is on the toll roads. Sometimes they won't accept your credit card at the toll booth. So you're going to have to think about taking a couple hundred rand with you to pay in cash at the toll booth, because that's something that we ran into as well, and something to think about. What you also do there is you buy wood alongside the road, and there are stacks of wood in certain areas. The local people gather the firewood. That's really good wood. It's like sikkelbush, Eysterhout, really tough hardwood, and you pay in cash for that. What we did find is that in the south we were paying about 10 Pula per bundle, and this increased the further north and the closer you got to Kasane, when it became about 25 to 30. But that's fine. You're supporting the local culture. It's really cool, and that wood really lasts a long time. You can start it up, cook on it, and it'll still be glowing by the time you have to put it out to go to bed. On the topic of fires, making a fire, What we found is a really good thing to do, is, which you can get in SA if you like, or in Botswana, is at a camping shop or a hardware store. It's about this long. It's a thin tube, steel, with little holes in it. That is attached to a hose, which attaches to your gas bottle. You basically open your gas, light that, and that thing will act like a little mini flamethrower. Put that in your wood, and you would just leave it there for about 20 minutes, and the wood will start burning. Far easier than fire lighters, in my opinion, or the oils that you use. It's very handy, very quick, it's safe, and we found it a very good deal. It was, I think, 400 Rand that we bought it for, which is about 20 euros. Makes your life a lot easier. The other one was diesel. We spoke about the price of diesel. It's about €1, negligible compared to what we used to up here. Most rentals will give you twin tanks in your car, a Hilux or a Land Cruiser. Both are about 120 to 140 liters of diesel, which is normally enough. And you might think, I can travel 1,000 kilometers with that, but you can't. If you're going into the CKGR, I would recommend you take an extra can of diesel with you. And we did some calculations. We traveled from Gaborone side, from Mokolodi was the last place we fueled up. Went in through Khutse, Bapezaka, Zadi Gate, up to Ghanzi, which is about 650 kilometers. And we put in 125 liters of diesel. So you can do the math. You're doing about 1 in 5. And the reason for that is the conditions. Beyond that, if you're traveling from Maun to Kasane through Moremi, bit of a game drive, Savuti camp, back up through Goa Gate, easily on your fuel on board. If you don't have twin tanks, you might have to think about having just one extra diesel jerry can. Just makes your life easier. Also between your ears, when you feel a lot more settled and you're not worried about your fuel gauge all the time. Driving conditions, a lot of the roads there do have potholes on the tarmac. It's part of life there. The main road from Kasane to Nata is perfect. From Nata to Gweta up to Maun, potholes everywhere. From Matsumo, if you're heading down towards Paje, Sirowe, Khama, Rhino Sanctuary, you got potholes as well, but it's sporadic, and you just got to be aware of that. That road from Nata to Gweta, you're basically driving off the road, beside the road, because it's so potholed. It's a smoother ride. It's quite fun. It's part of the whole thing, part of the destination, but you do need to keep your speed down, watch your distances, be ready to react if there's a pothole, because they get quite big. You could leave a wheel behind, and the rental company might not be amused. Driving in the sand is another difficult one, and this is where the most of your fuel consumption comes in, because your average speed will drop to about 15 kilometers per hour. You'll have your little Garmin on the windshield, and normally when you have a distance and your kilometers to go, it counts down pretty regularly. Now you'll be looking at it every 5 minutes, and it's dropped only 1 kilometer, and it's dropped only 2 kilometers in the last half an hour. That's how tough it can get. Basically, midday up to 4 o'clock in the afternoon is probably the worst time to get out there in this condition. That sand becomes so hot, and because it's hot, it becomes really viscous and fluid, and becomes soft and powdery. And especially in the CKGR, they've got these big heavy trucks running through there, which mess up the width of the track, and they also crush that sand into fine powder, and I find it very difficult to get through. Moremi is very different conditions. You've got savannas, you've got wooded areas, you've got some bridges, if they're still in effect, green areas, a little bit of grass, harder stuff, but also pools of water, which can be about 1/2 meter deep. And bells go off. This can get a little bit difficult as well, especially if you're driving alone. The best thing to do, as soon as you get off the tarmac, drop your tires. I would recommend 1.8, maybe even 1.5. If you do that, you'll get through. There's a debate, Land Cruiser or Hilux. Depends on where you're going and the conditions. We had two of each, and we found that each vehicle was better for different conditions. If you're on those washboards, those dirt roads, those gravel roads, the Hilux is much better. It's got much softer rear suspension than the Land Cruiser, which is hard. So in the Land Cruiser, you find you need to drive faster to even that out compared to the Hilux, which is quite pliant and supple. The flip side is when you're in the really soft sand, and this soft sand is like beach sand. You know, that really stuff you used to make castles on the beach with, that kind of sand, and it goes on and on and on for miles. The Hilux doesn't cope very well with that. As soon as you get some speed up, which means, relatively speaking, 20 kilometers per hour, it starts hopping and it bottoms out because the rear suspension is really soft. They haven't beefed that up at all. So you're either hitting the bump stops and you slow down, or you're trying to get some speed, and if you don't get enough speed, you kind of get bogged down in the sand, and it's all a little bit of a mess. The Land Cruiser is much better for that. It's stiffer suspension. It can get up over the top of the sand and do about 30 or 40 k's an hour, which is basically as fast as you want to go in these conditions, because you're out there having fun. You're also looking for animals, you're enjoying the scenery. There's no need to blast through it at full speed. What I can say about the Hilux is a fantastic vehicle. The suspension needs a bit of work, but we had a 2.4. The engine is just sufficient in the power delivery, enough power and torque, just enough. But that thing will run all day. And we had 50 degrees Celsius temperatures in this heat of the desert in the Kalahari. Didn't even worry about it. We did have an automatic. What we did have at one point was an overheated transmission on the dashboard. Wouldn't get into gear. We just let it idle in neutral for about 10 or 20 minutes, and that cooled that down, and then we could run off again. And that was basically, I think, running in 4 high instead of 4 low, something like that, or keeping your gears in gear, second gear only, or if you left it in drive, it will keep hunting gears, and that's probably why it overheated. Best seats on the planet. We spent days in there, like the whole day, 8 or 9 hours behind the wheel in the searing heat. No problem at all. Very, very comfortable. Best seats I've ever driven with. And the other side is, I would buy that vehicle just for the sound system. Kick ass, deep bass, thumping. If you really enjoy that on the tarmac roads and you're trying to make some time, put the music on and off you go. Another thing to think about is in the northern area of Botswana, I think Maun, north, it is kind of a malaria area. Think about that. If you're worried about it, get a little malaria, take some tablets with you. The best thing for that is also peaceful sleep. The clue's in the name. Spray, which is kind of anti-mosquito stuff. And the best part is you can have G&Ts, gin and tonic. And why do you do that? Well, the tonic has got quinine in it, which used to be used back in the day before that peaceful sleep and these malaria tablets to prevent malaria. So if you do get stung, the quinine would help you. And to make that palatable, add a bit of gin in there, a bit of ice, squeeze a lemon, you're gold. If you don't need a G&T, try the St. Louis beer. Fantastic beer. Almost as good as this, but basically it's the Botswana's national beer in effect. Nice and light, 3.5%. You can just use it as a refreshing drink when you get to camp. Have 1 or 2 of those and just cool out from your hard day behind the wheel. Shopping is not as big a deal as you might think. They have shopping malls there, yes. In the biggest towns like Maun and Kasane are basically where you need to stock up. But you also got Palapye, Letlakani, Orapa, Gaborone, obviously we went through there as well. All the towns have a major, all the bigger towns have a big shopping mall or a couple of malls. You've got a ShopRite in there, which is a big supermarket, and you've also got the Spar. The Spar is smaller, it's a little bit more expensive, but the quality is much higher. And you get anything you need in there. The only thing that don't do very well is meat. If you're into your steaks, they'll give you a steak which is quite a bargain if you think about it, but it's super thin, and it's tough as anything. So you need to actually find a butchery. We didn't find the beef boys in Maun, but that is a recommendation that if you're looking for some good steaks to braai, do that. Otherwise, what did we do? Our backup was a chicken flatty or boerewors, that kind of thing. What you do need to think about is that you need to stock up on a couple of days of provisions. You need to think about 3 or 4 days ahead. So have 3 or 4 days worth of food, drinks, all of that stuff, especially when you're traveling through the CKGR, Moremi and Chobe, Savuti, because Savuti camp didn't have any water when we were there. Those 5-litre water bottles, have about 3 or 4 of them on board as standard. Those are your drinking waters, and you will be drinking a lot of water. We drank 5 litres per day easily, and we were still trying to get more water in, which was crazy if you think about it. Maybe you're not used to that when you're living in Europe, but down there it's just part of the deal. The rental cars do have a water tank on board. Some of them have 40 or 60 or 80 litres. This water is not drinking water though. It's good for doing dishes, good for having shower in your shower bag or a little water pump. You can't drink it, so you need to think about taking water with you, because once you're out of the towns, there's nothing around. And that's the whole idea about going there. It's super remote, it's super wild, super Africa. A lot of it also has to do with the thoughts in your head. As long as you can have all your things with you, you're so much more chilled, so much more relaxed, and you can focus out there and try and spot those elephants. So as we have like a military chopper coming over us in the background, think about the driving on the roads as well. They do have speed traps. Try not to speed too much. Sometimes you're trying to make it to the gate in time. You might get a little speeding fine there. In the game parks, I would recommend 20 to 30 kilometers an hour. It's a great speed for game viewing, and also if something jumps in the road in front of you, you can react nicely. Leave some space between your cars. Here it's a kind of a habit to sit right bumper to bumper, keep the whole group together, keep it compact, keep it moving. Back there, spread out a bit. Give 50, 100 meters to the car in front. Gives you some time to look around, and they can stop instantly, quickly, and if they need to reverse quickly, they can do that because you've given them some space. Also, as I said, if you've let your tires down to about 1.8 or something, you've got a compressor on board normally, pump them up again. Another way is just to drive to the local petrol station where you're going to refill with your diesel, and just let them do it for you, and then pay them a couple of Pula from your little cash stash. Much easier. If you're planning to go to Botswana, I'm sure you have done a lot of planning, and there's a lot of thought involved, and a lot of ideas picked around, and a lot of tips and tricks that you've put together. And now you've got your route planned, but now what about the bookings? I would recommend getting a booking agency to do that for you, because they think of things you didn't. If I was going to go, I would plan for my diesel, plan for my border crossings, plan for my campsites. But then what about the conservation fees, your vehicle fees, and your park fees, all of that stuff, and your tourism levies? These guys do all that for you. So they come up with a total package, and they will help you plan your route more efficiently as well, and give you other ideas. If you thought you're going to Third Bridge, but you'd rather go to Zakanaka, then they will come up with that idea and say, you know what, this is much nicer. We did that with Ultimate Routes, and I got to say, Ultimate is pretty good description, because they were super patient, super helpful. They came up with alternative ideas, and gave us a whole route, planned it all out. They paid for all the camp fees, conservation fees, your park fees. There's a whole lot of stuff. Botswana really knows how to push this kind of stuff. But they organized all of it, and it all went off smoothly, flawlessly. And we spent 3 weeks, and we spent about, I'd say 14 different camps, areas, and everything was perfectly organized on the dates, on the money, the amount of people, the amount of vehicles, all of that stuff. And with that, also recognize that this is Africa, and this is why you go to Africa, and this is why you enjoy this whole experience. It is wild. Things happen. Plans will change. Don't get stuck in a rigid time frame, in a rigid routine, a rigid schedule. Just take it as it comes. For us, we kind of, in the middle of the CKJR, we realized we might not make it through Deception Pan, Rockops back to Maun with enough diesel. So we thought we'd bail out at Zadi Gate and head to Ghanzi. And that was not a big deal. We still were very tight in our diesel. We were thinking about sending one vehicle, all the diesel in there, come back with more diesel, that kind of thing. But we made it in the end. The trouble is we had to get more accommodation. So we just phoned these guys at Ultimate Routes. We just said to them, this is the situation. We're out of the Sikajara 3 days early. We need accommodation. What can you do? Little knowing it was a Sunday, but they came through, organized us, gave us some alternatives, even booked it for us, which was fantastic. So I can recommend a little bit of backup there in the background. And that leads me on to your rental as well. Think about which company you're going to rent with. How's their infrastructure? We did end up with Bush Lore. They are one of the biggest. They've got a couple hundred vehicles running out there. The thing is, their infrastructure is good. The vehicle itself is no better or no worse than anywhere else. Criticisms, yes, there are a couple, even though these guys apparently should be the top shelf and the best. So on our vehicle, as I've said in another video, our starter motor packed up in the CKJR. It was fine. It was just hanging when you started. So we went to the depot, explained the problem, and they fixed it within an hour, sent us back on our way. That's really cool, because if you're now stuck with a broken vehicle somewhere, that's not going to be a very good experience, because you've lived towards your holiday for so long, and you're just eating into your free time. So think about those things. On the other hand, there are dozens of vehicle rental agencies out there. I don't know, I can name SA 4x4, Bush Trackers, Ndlovu, Bush Lore, you've got Brits, Chobe, all of these guys. We saw dozens of them out there as well. And if you think, are these guys reputable and reliable? I would say yes, because we saw them out there. These guys were renting, driving, no big deal. So a lot of guys come from Namibia, coming all the way through Botswana, long distances, and then back again. You're going to do a one-way drop-off thing. I don't know what the charge is for that, but that's an option as well. Pick up your car in Maun and then drop it off in Windhoek and then fly out, something like that as an option. Yeah, basically the vehicles are reliable. Most of them are Toyotas, and the network in SA, Southern Africa, Africa as a whole, is just fantastic. So you'll always be able to get some help. The only thing is you need to be a little bit self-reliant with regards to your route, because it's remote, and that's the reason you go there, to experience this remoteness. The other thing you need to think about in your campsite, and that's the reason we went with Bush Lore, because they have the crew cam, which is a complete unit with an integrated sleeping area, is at night you do not leave your vehicle. Animals are better at that than us. They're more camouflaged, they've got better eyesight, they're more used to the environment, they're stealthy. So you need to stay in your tent, because if you get out there, these animals will lock onto you, they'll spot you. Things could happen. It hardly ever does, but just be aware of that. And these guys in the big Land Cruisers had a little portaloo for a comfort break in the middle of the night. We had a roof tent, basic setup. What are we going to do? And so to fix that, we got this bottle about this size. I'll show it to you. It had a nice big opening, which was nice. Very clever way to just do your comfort break inside the tent. And if you're a woman, you think, no, how's that going to work? Well, there's this thing called a shiwi, which is a brilliant shape, like a little funnel thing. Works brilliantly. It's compact, everybody's happy, and you can stay in your tent at night. The other thing is put out your fires before you go to sleep. That's very important, because Botswana this time as well, and we were there 5 years before, it's dry, it's super dry. So if there is a fire by any chance, wind, sparks flying into the bush, you're going to have a big problem. So think about that. Just be aware of everything around you. Take a good torch so you can shine into the bush, just to be sure there's no leopards or lions eyeing you out. Elephants, not a real big deal. Elephants, I would think, they're not cowards, but they're shy. So they will avoid you more than you will avoid them, really. We've had them walk right through the camp, and we didn't even hear them at night. and they don't bug you if you don't bug them, and if you give them enough space. And you can tell by their body language. We all know about the flapping. It depends how they're flapping. Sometimes they're just cooling. If they're eating, no problem. They're busy eating and they're more relaxed, and you can just chill. Don't be too worried about the elephants. Most vehicles do have a charging port of some sort. Most of it is USB. Some of them have an inverter for your fridge, and basically it's just for the fridge. So if you need to charge other stuff, some campsites in the big villages do have electricity, others don't, but that's why you go there, like Moremi or Chobe, CKGR. They don't have any electricity. But in Maun, you will find campsite, or Chobe Safari Lodge. There are plugs. The plug you use is the same one as in South Africa. No big deal. If you're worried which adapter to use, find a South African one. It will work through the whole of Botswana. Victoria Falls, which was a bucket list item. And we were in Kasane, we stayed at the Chobe Safari Lodge, and we took the shuttle. You can take your own car, take your own vehicle, but it's a lot more of a challenge. It's a lot more difficult. You could breeze through, but you could be stuck there as well. So we all piled into this van that took us to the border post into Zimbabwe. If you're traveling on international passport, you'll have to pay an entry fee into the country, which is $30 or $50. If you're from the SADC region, it's no charge. At Victoria Falls, we did pay an entry fee there. That was $50 for internationals, $30 for South Africans. This is on top of $100 for the shuttle per person. So think of that as well. That was a fantastic experience, though, something you have to do. So yeah, I would say 3 weeks we did a lap of the place. It still isn't enough time, but as I said before, it's Africa time. Take it as it comes. You plan it to the nth degree, and contingencies, all of that stuff, doesn't matter. Just go, enjoy yourself. Take it as it comes. Get a flat tire or something happens, and just ease into the moment. That's the best part of Botswana. The meat situation, we did get checked coming from north to south, not from the south to north, which is something to think about as well. Although they do keep saying that the border, although we didn't get checked at the border, our fridges weren't opened, even though we didn't have anything on board. Think about that. I think it's north to south is the problem. Some other ideas are the CKGR is super remote. We went to the southern region. We didn't get to Piper Pan, Deception Pan. We didn't see many animals, but just to be there was fantastic. It's super remote, super isolated. There's nothing around, quiet as anything. Milky Way like you wouldn't believe. All you hear around you are lions at night roaring at each other, and the elephants just all over the show. Fantastic. Before we got to CKGR, we came from Joburg via Gaborone, and at Gaborone there was a little game reserve called Mokolodi, which is just south of Gaborone. So we drove from Midrand down the N4, the toll road, with our little cash at the toll booth. We came through Skilpadshek, which was a very quiet little border post. South African side was 2 minutes. The other side, we're busy reconstructing, building this huge building. They're going to really invest a lot there. So we came through a little port cabin. Everything was stamped, written by hand, which is really old school, which is quite cool. But it was really quick. I think half an hour, 40 minutes, 4 cars right through. And then from there we went 70 k's up to Mokolodi. Really nice game reserve. Very big pictures, as you've seen in the other videos already. From there we went to Khutse. Khutse is like your intro into CKGR. Very remote, very basic. Now it starts getting basic. You got just a little pit latrine and a little shower enclosure. The rest you got to do yourself. Ghanzi was cool because it was the only place with grass in Botswana, in my opinion. Very good campsite was Afrique. In Maun we stayed at the Island Safari Lodge, which was good. We did the cultural tour. We did a helicopter flight, which I can recommend. Really cool. It's not cheap, of course it isn't, but what an adventure. What a way to look at this country from a different perspective. See just how big it is, how flat it is, how much water is there in Okavango. Then up through Third Bridge, it's a staple, which is really cool. As I said before, Moremi has so much differing environments, which is nice. A lot of animals there because it rained a bit, so the animals came out. Savuti in Chobe is probably the only place you can go to, besides a private tour operator. The only campsite, it's very busy. A very small ablutions blocks for the amount of people, and they ran dry out of water as well, so think about that. And then we went to Chobe Safari Lodge, can't recommend it enough, fantastic place. Also do the Chobe loop from Ngoma, follow the river along to Sadudu Gate. Just follow the river instead of taking the road. It'll take 3 times longer. Instead of an hour, you're on the road for 2-3 hours, but it's a fantastic place to find animals because the water's right there. Herds of elephants, buffaloes, hippos, giraffes, impalas, zebras, all of it. In Kasane, it's like a miniature version of Maun. You can do everything there as well. You can also get a little helicopter flight if you want. There are guided tours, safaris, all of that. The river cruise is fantastic. Just so mellow, laid back. Obviously from there you hop across to Vic Falls. Then on the way back we went through Elephant Sands. You have to go there. It's something that's cliche and too touristy and too over the top. Just go there. From there, go to Naipan, NXAIPAN. This was a really standout moment as well. That's where the elephants were just right through the camp. There's no fencing anywhere in Botswana anyway. This is why you need to look around you, be aware, especially at night, stay in your tent. From there, we went to Kubu Island, man. We made it. And I got to say, what a magical moment. The sunrise over the Salt Pans is just mind-blowing, breathtaking. Super remote as well. Dust like you can't believe it through the Salt Pans. There's no road really to speak of. You have to trust your GPS completely. We got so lost there. It was really cool. And then we came back through Khama Rhino Sanctuary, which was really nice to have a visit as well. We spent a little bit too short time there. We got there quite late in the afternoon and we only had an hour to do a little game drive. But hey, rhinos with horns. Think about that. They're doing a really good job there. We did find the Hunter's Road, which is pretty cool. It was a little road which follows the border of Zimbabwe all the way from Kasane down to Nata, and it kind of parallels the main road by a couple kilometers. But the main road is trucks, and it's a busy road because it's the main route from Gaborone through to Zambia. So this little track, it doesn't get used much. It was quite nice, quite interesting. If you want something alternative, a little extra route there, that was fantastic as well. People super friendly, fantastic, always laughing. English is the main language there, so you don't have to worry about that either. As I said before, it's not a cheap place to go to. You need to budget a little bit, but there are so many options. The Pula is the way to go. Draw some cash to have on hand for tips, for some firewood along the road. Make sure you have enough water on board. Think of an extra jerry can if you don't have twin tanks in your vehicle. The heat, yes, drink a lot, take a lot of water. Think about your peaceful sleep. So hey, some thoughts and ideas. I don't know if you're still here, then I hope you've gathered something out of this, or maybe you think that's wrong, guys. Well, let me know if I'm wrong down below. I just wanted to share this because it's just such an inspiring place. It was exhilarating, it was exciting, it was a fantastic place to visit. I can't recommend it highly enough. You will love every minute and you'll go back for more. So thanks for watching, guys. I'd say go out there and have some fun. Get on your adventure. Keep rolling. Cheers.